Well, computers. Man.
That's why I always.
I just saw myself say computers, man. It takes a while for it to show up. Well, that worked, thank goodness. Man, they were just trying to really mess with me. Okay, guys, I'm here, and I'm ready and waiting. It says we have an excellent connection.
Oh, good.
Yes, it usually says that when we actually get started. But my computer was having a mild freakout attack. We started like 5 minutes ago and had to get verification. Hi, Violet. We had to get a code on my phone, so I had to bring my phone in, which I don't usually have, but I've turned the sound off so it won't be making any noises in the middle of a live show, just in case. So I'm hoping everybody had a wonderful May Day if you did it yesterday, and today if you're doing it today. We have one hello and one like.
All right.
Hopefully they're not having a problem at their end, because it looks like concurrent viewers just went down to 0.
Oh, well. Who knows? Let's just pick a subject and we'll talk about it until people start asking questions.
Well, I'm going to give them all an update on what we're doing. So, that's you. Mary is there. Hello, Mary. Hi. Okay, looks like we're up and running. So,
that's a pretty fancy wand you've got.
It is a fancy wand. I've pretty much finished my Bridget piece. So there's a nice picture of her. I have a couple of embellishments to do on it yet. But that's the size of the piece. And it's just about gone or done. And Ian painted a piece of canvas for me that I bought. So it's going to go on a black background to show it off.
Well. Yeah.
So that's hopefully going to be done by next week. So we've got that going. So that's one completed.
Oh yeah, that green's going to look great on there too.
Yeah, it's going to look fabulous on that black. So, hi Boonfei. Hi Ryder. She says, Ryder says hello to you.
Yep.
And me as well, and everyone else that's out there. Violet wants to know how she can honor the Luna moth.
Oh, they sure are big.
They're big, huge moths. Paint a picture of one. I've always thought that they'd make a really nice beaded collar myself.
I think something like that would be a good idea, actually, especially if you do it with the intention of that you're honoring that moth. Make they're beings associated with everything, so.
Yeah. And maybe put pictures of the moon in the picture with the moth and use your imagination. Or if you don't feel like you want to be that kind of creative, you can find pictures of it and, put together a little picture of it and put it on your wall, or I don't know, there's lots of different ways to connect to the energy.
Yeah, one of the more important on that thing of that is the feeling the respect towards whatever it is the more important thing than how it physically turns out.
Right. It's the energy. It's kind of like a child's drawing isn't viewed from the other side as like a work of art. It's the intention and the energy and the feeling behind the art that makes it special to the parents, and spirits would feel the same about something like that, I would say. So yesterday I did some planting. I got the vegetables planted that I'd purchased, so at least they're not being tortured by being in their small containers. And that was fun. I did that in the afternoon, and we had a really nice sunny day here. So both of us were outside sitting in the sun, just kind of basking in it. And my irises have started to bloom, and one of them was left on the ground, so I picked it up and stuck it in a little vase that I have. So this is one of my irises. I've got purple ones, white ones, yellow ones. And then I have bearded irises that are going to be coming up. But they just started opening up yesterday, which was really kind of cool. Just perfect timing on their part. So that was kind of fun. And then last night, I I slept. I've been sleeping with my wand, my fairy wand, for a while at this point, and apparently last night they tangled my hair in the back of the wand. Now I've been sleeping with this thing next to me for, well, since before. Well, it's been a couple of weeks actually. I just one night thought I need to sleep with my fairy wand, and so it was a surprise when I woke up in the middle of the night to have my hair tangled in the wires along the backside, and I had to extricate myself. So that was kind of fun. Made me think somebody was playing with my hair. You never know. But yeah, I had the smells in my bedroom last night really strong. All three of them. It seemed like the lavender, the amber, and the vanilla, and just a very strong presence in my room. So I was pretty tickled about that. Thank you. I love my wand. Yeah, I have collected all of these stones over the years and kept them in a box. It's like I do that. I go to a store or a rock show or something, and I see something that interests me and I like it, and I'm like, I don't know what I need this for, but I'm going to keep it. And when I got the yew wood, which is what I made this from, and got to the point where I was ready to actually put stones on it, they wanted all of them. So I have like all kinds of stones: jade and angelite and tiger eye and amethyst and purple jade and rose quartz and lapis at the end and more amethyst. It's just like every time I looked at a rock, they're like, "Oh yeah, let's put that on." So
I really like the way the copper piece turned out myself.
Yeah, because I needed to have a way to put the large piece of lapis in there.
Very attractive too.
Yep. And so then I decorated the copper with some turquoise and jade pieces and some other little cabochons I had. Yeah. So anyway, they really liked it a lot. So
I really like the way you did the moonstone there too. Wrapped it. Big. Or I don't mean moonstone, I mean rose quartz. Yeah.
Right, that's a rose quartz. Yeah, everybody was wrapped there because they're beads. Most of them are beads rather than just rocks, except for the lapis and the cabochons up at the top.
I actually like the green wire over the top of it. It's just me. I don't know if that comes through on camera, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah, they just liked all the different colors. I got some green wire down in here too. It just depended on what came to
seems very
to hand.
To me.
Yeah, well, fairies are like, they like things that are colorful and sparkly, and they definitely like the wand. So it's kind of fun to sleep with it and have them get all excited about that. So the Heart Catalyst has shown up. Hi, and Dora Mifra is there. Hello. Yes. YouTube kind of freaked me out and said, "I'm sorry, but we don't know who you are." I'm like, what? What do you mean? This computer doesn't have authority to be on this. I'm like, okay. So had to do all that fun stuff. Truth Moonstone, also known as the Huckleberry Hut or Hout or Hot, H-A-U-G-H-T. Hello from Big Pine. Hi. Where is Big Pine? Big Pine, is that in California or Colorado or Wyoming or somewhere? I'm not sure.
Well, I'm thinking there's one in California, but
they'll let us know now that we've asked the question. Julia says, hello, haven't been in the past few shows. Nice to see everyone. Welcome back, Julia. Ryder said hello to the Heart Catalyst. And Ryder says that, Julia, where you been? Been up to anything grand? Truth Monsoon says Florida Keys. Big Pine, Florida Keys. Okay, thank you for letting us know. There are so many names that are in almost every single state. Our state in Oregon, we've got countries. We've got Holland and Denmark and it's like Ireland. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I guess they were running out of names when they got over here, and they decided to name cities and towns countries instead. And yeah, they have fun. So Mary says she's from Sarasota, Florida. So I guess Mary and Truth Monsoon are in the same geographic area. So yay. Julia says not much. School and hanging out with family. Had a great first Beltane though. Oh, awesome. I missed having our public Beltane. Well, there's some birds flying around out there, which is why I got distracted.
Robins.
I think those are robins.
Those are robins, yeah.
Yeah. Apparently they decided to make an entrance. Wanted to make sure everyone knew that they were hanging out our windows. Yeah, so I host an open Beltane every year in my area. And so last year was the first time. We haven't had one because of the pandemic. And we didn't do one this year either because there's still too much of that kind of stuff going on. So next year, hopefully, we'll be back to doing our maypole. I mean, Ian made a portable maypole that so that we could take it wherever we wanted to, which frees us up from having to find a tree. And so that was kind of nice. So we always wanted to make one, and we did finally get one of those made a couple years back. Mary Wick says, nice spot down here. She's in Florida. Yes. Cool. Yeah. So I've updated you on some of my activities at any rate. And got any questions to keep me going, or should I just pick a subject and run with it? I remember told you, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, that I was meeting with some people that were concerned about a haunting. It might have been the week before. I haven't heard back from them after I went and talked to them, and I think they just basically needed some reassurance that they weren't crazy and weren't alone and what was happening was normal. So that sort of resolved itself, which is good because, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. I'm kind of like not doing much in the way of paranormal investigations right now at strangers' houses. So Julia says she wished she was able to do a maypole ceremony. And Moonface says, what are your views on Avalon? Avalon, the mystical place that Arthur is supposed to have gone to, or The Mists of Avalon, which is a wonderful book, and unfortunate that the author turned out to not be so wonderful as the books that she wrote. That I thought was actually a pretty cool book, and read it when it first came out when I lived in Santa Cruz.
Myself, I'm not so familiar with that whole aspect of things. I know Dion Fortune wrote about it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of mythology and stuff out there of secret places that people can sometimes wander into.
King Arthur and stuff like that, I'm just not so familiar with.
Truth Monsoon wants to know if I've had any recent fae encounters. You mean like the ones last night in my bed when they tied up my hair in my wand and smelled really lovely in my room? I guess that would be a yes. That would be the most recent one, in bed last night. But yes. Nadia has just joined us and says, I'm from Slovenia. Have you visited yet? And if yes, had any special experience? I've never been to Slovenia, so I guess the answer to both questions is no, since I've not been. I'm not much of a world traveler. I've lived in Canada for like 15 years or so, and went to Hawaii twice. That's about the extent of my experience, and lived in the United States, which is a rather large part of the continent. And I've been on the East Coast and the West Coast, and I was born on the East Coast. And because of some of my family history and dynamics and stuff, apparently my subconscious felt that moving as far away as possible from everyone was a good idea. So yeah, I have a definite physical distance from my family, although most of us are now in communication with each other, my immediate family, except for my brother who's disowned us. Decided that we're evil, and apparently I'm part of that whole problem because of, being a witch and all. And he's Catholic, adopted Catholicism in his when he married his wife. But he's a chauvinist, and a misogynist. So who knows what he's thinking? He's just kind of not like the rest of us. But writer says that she went to college with a lass called Nadia, and she was lovely. But she was an Indian. Mary Wick says, I'd love to go to Slovenia. It looks so beautiful there. Yeah, no kidding. There's some beautiful places around the planet. There's no doubt about it. That's one of the things I've noticed is pretty much anywhere, if you know the area and you can tune in to the energy of what's going on, is you can find some incredible beauty. And it doesn't matter about the weather. When I lived up in northern British Columbia in the wintertime, when we had the northern lights, which are just so spectacular to witness and hear and so forth, and the air would get so cold that it would freeze all of the water droplets in the air and the ice would float.
Go deal with that.
Okay. Ian has to go deal with something on his hand. And, you know, go outside in the moonlight and it'd be like walking through a sea of stars, and it's like you don't get that view anywhere else. It's sort of specific to the far north on the planet, or maybe the way far south. I don't know much about that part of it. So Mary Wick says that she would love to go to Slovenia, and I'm right about something. I don't know what I was right about. Nadia says, I feel like we have so much magic and various nature around us, but because it's a small country, not much is written, recorded. Yeah, and I think that it's a good thing if you collect the local lore and legends and stories and stuff like that and put them out there for people to learn more about your culture and your area and, you know, everything that's around there. I think that's one of the things the internet's good for, being able to bring people from far places together so we can travel in our minds, not necessarily have to go there in person, especially right now, of course, in the middle of a pandemic. But I've never been fond of the airplane. I feel like when I'm in an airplane that I'm the reason it's not crashing is because I'm there making sure it doesn't fall out of the sky. So I'm not a good flyer. I want anti-gravity. It just makes more sense. I was surprised, though. We ended up going on a balloon ride in Napa Valley years ago. Met with my sisters and my mom. One of my middle sister, her son was getting married, so we were there for that. And my youngest sister paid for us to go on a balloon. And with my fear of heights and not comfortable flying, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about a balloon, but I loved being in a balloon because there was no sensation of being pulled down because the air, you know, the heat was making us rise and making us lighter than the air around us, so that gravity thing was gone, and there was no sense of height because you're on a platform. It's like you're moving on this platform. So I had a lovely time. So I was very happy about that, and I was glad that we got a good pilot and we had no accidents, because I've seen some of those videos of balloons crashing. Not so good. I think right now Arizona's got its balloon festival was going on just this past weekend. So yeah, it's that was interesting. So, Truth Monsoon, what are your thoughts on mermaids? Well, I've never met a real life mermaid, and I have met the spirits that people might call mermaids, the undines. And I have swum with them in the astral plane or the other side or whatever, and they taught me how to swim. So I don't think that we have like real life mermaids living in the water. And I think was it the History Channel that tried to fake people out with saying that they had found real mermaids and then laughed at everybody for being stupid and believing them. But, you know, there's all sorts of things. So Jonathan says, hi, I'm late again. Not too late. It's only 20 minutes in. So, you know, you're not too far off. So welcome. Truth Monsoon says, being around the ocean, I've always been curious about them. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure curious about them as well. But like I said, I've definitely met them on an energetic level. So it's kind of cool. Violet says, I did a balloon ride with my second husband. Well, I guess the question is not how much did it cost, but did you enjoy it? Mercury Chan says, hi, Siofra, and hi, everyone. So, hi, Mercury. I think Mercury's going retrograde soon, the end of the month, the 27th or something.
Continues to do that, doesn't it?
It does that like 3 times a year. It's crazy. So, writer's asking Jonathan how he's doing. He says, I can't complain, and how are you? So Violet says, balloon ride was 25 years ago, so price has probably gone up since then. Yeah, I don't know how much it cost because my sister paid for it, and we never actually found out what she paid. She paid for everyone to go. It was her present to us for being able to get together, and I hadn't seen my sisters in 25 years, so that was kind of interesting. And it was fascinating for me to see the dynamics between my sisters and my mother, because I always thought I was the only one she treated that way. My mother has this, she doesn't have a mother's instinct, which is kind of amazing that, we all developed a mother's instinct, but my mom doesn't have one. That was sort of like tormented in a sense out of her. And so whenever we're doing something and she thinks we're like being mean to some imaginary person who's not there, or some person that isn't in the room but does exist somewhere in the world, she always flies to their defense. So it's very difficult to talk to her about how I feel about stuff, and she immediately shuts the conversation down by saying, well, maybe they're having a bad day. It's like, and that's an excuse for how they treated me. So anyway, my mom was doing that to my 2 sisters as well. So I felt better knowing it wasn't just me, because, knowing that you're not completely singled out sort of diffuses that dynamic a little bit. And family can be tricky. There's no doubt about it. So, Nadia says, how do I get more spiritually aware without getting scared about it? I feel like I have a lot of potential because I can sense things, but as a kid I used to have night terrors and that left me afraid, which is actually a good question. And it takes practice and experience. We're always afraid of something that we don't understand, something that is new and unfamiliar. That's sort of a normal physiological response that the human body has, which keeps us safe. Like if we were out in the jungle or the woods or something and we heard a loud noise and we jumped and ran, that would be an appropriate response. So when you're trying to deal with anything that you're not familiar with, it's normal to have that reaction in the beginning. So what you need is familiarity and opportunities to experience it in a safe environment. So doing it during the day with all the lights on, definitely recommended. Not going into places that make you feel unsafe and uncomfortable. Like if you're feeling like that, I wouldn't recommend to go to the most haunted location in your community that you can find to feel what it's like.
A little bit at a time until you'll get used to it, accustomed to it, and it'll bother you less and less.
Yeah, and then when you make connections with your higher self, your guardian angel, your guardian spirit, your ancestors, whatever, totem animal, power animal, whatever kind of process that you're using, the more you make a connection with that, the easier it becomes. And then knowing who you are, of course, is always a key, because if you know yourself, you know your strengths and your weaknesses, you know what's you, then you can tell what's not you. So, it's sort of like, it's a process. It doesn't happen. There's not like a 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, wow, there you are. It's more of a giant ball of string that you have to follow different color threads into the center and become familiar with those pathways and understand them enough. So don't be upset with yourself for being afraid, for one, because it's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to it. It's just where you're at. And if you feel safer doing things in a circle or working on protections, working on shielding yourself, getting those things down, working on being able to cleanse your energy field, you can do that in your own temple, room, sacred space, outdoor circle, whatever it is that you're using. And you practice those techniques and those methods so that you know that if something does happen, if you're worried about attachments, that's a way to, make sure that if they do happen, you have a tool to get rid of them, or making sure that you're strong enough that nothing is going to want to attach to you. I'm getting distracted by that flying bird out there. It keeps drawing my eye. So, it's like you have to be creative with it and, feel your way through. And it's kind of like a practice, like in psychology, when you have a phobia about something, you get one of the techniques they use is exposing you to it in small doses so that you can, feel the feelings and then know that nothing happened and that you're safe. And so it's sort of, you get to the point where it's less bothersome and whatnot. So, yeah. So that would be my suggestion for that. So Mary says, hi, silly question. I noticed so many Sabbats have fire as a large focus, not so much earth, water, and air focus. Thought of this as I sat around the Beltane fire, wondering your thoughts. Well, that's because half the year is in the dark kind of thing, and half the year is in the light kind of thing, and fire was extremely important to primitive people. Fire kept us safe, it cooked our food, it represents the sun, the life-giving force of the sun, and warmth, and without which we would die. So I suspect that's one of the reasons why the Sabbats have got a lot of fire in them.
It's not just about the fire, it's about the sun and the life-giving.
Yeah, and it's about that survival, the sun representing survival. And like Beltane, although there are fires associated with this festival, there's also other things like fertility, dancing, flowers, so it isn't just a fire festival. It's just the Beltane fires they lit to like run the cattle through between two fires in order to help increase their fertility and to protect them. And, certainly fire has been a protective kind of source of energy for primitive people. So, yeah. There are a lot of fire festivals. Because without the sun, we'd all die. We need the light. I think that's the core of it.
It was amazing how fast it gets cold during an eclipse.
Oh, wow, right. When we were at the total solar eclipse a few years ago, and when that moon got between us and the sun for that couple of minutes.
But it was like, what, 80 or 90 to start with?
Yeah, and it dropped like 20 degrees in like that.
A minute or two, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite remarkable. That was a very intense experience, too. It was very emotional. I screamed and cried and yelled, and so did half the people that were there in the field watching it with us. So yeah, that was, in fact, my fairy wand was there with me, as well as all of my other wands. I was thinking the other day which wands weren't there. The ones I've recently made, like the Saturnian wand and the Mars wand, were before the eclipse, so they didn't get to be there, but yeah. So Trinity says, hi Siofra, just getting here, but I'm here. Hi Trinity, glad you could make it. Violet says, ah yes, nice balloon ride. Writer at Jonathan, I'm doing good, about to have some food. Mary Broadwell says, hi, I think you passed my question about fire. Nope, I got to it. I was just answering the question before that first. Mary says, hate to ask this, but how do you pronounce Siofra? Siofra. S-I is pronounced she, like the pronoun for a female, she. So S-I-D-H-E is the name of the Irish fairy folk, and it's pronounced she as well. So in Ireland, anything that has an S-I in it is going to be pronounced she. That makes that sound. So that's how you pronounce Siofra. Jonathan says, Nadia, a lot of this stuff scares me. Facing those fears, especially after watching Siofra's vid on Natural Authority, has been very rewarding for me. Awesome. Oh, and Ryder apparently answered the question while I was busy doing other things and said Siofra. Yes, thank you very much. Mary says, thanks, Ryder. Nadia says, thank you very much. I never went on poking a bear, but whenever I focused on myself and became open to that, I pulled back. I loved your answer. Good. I'm glad that that helped. Because it's an exploration of reality. And, there are dangers out there in the world, in the natural world. Going for a walk in the woods and coming across a pile of bear scat, you want to turn around and go back the other way. So, always good to pay attention to the warning signs. Mary says, thank you for answering my question. You didn't pass it. My fault. I do love a good bonfire, and I love thinking about the other aspects of Beltane, too. Jonathan says, Mercury. I don't know what that means. Mercury. Oh, I missed one. I heard someone say that the LBRP is somehow rude or aggressive towards native spirits and beings. Is that true? That's the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. That's a short term for that. And I don't think so, because the idea there is for you to clear yourself and become connected with all of nature and become like God and kind of like the
Well, that's a little
source.
That's a little bit of my interpretation of that, though, from that meditation and all.
That you wrote.
Yes, but it's not really inimical to any beings anyway. The standard one that got the first one that was around from the Golden Dawn used the archangels or archangels.
Right. We substituted the other heads.
Of the elements.
Right.
And so it's not really inimical to anything. You can use it to clean yourself out, clean stuff out. Not necessarily oriented towards beings at all, but energies more. I mean, if there is a being, it'll get rid of it. But yeah, I don't perceive anything like that in the banishing ritual myself.
And that you did it every day for at least a year when you first started.
A couple of years, yeah.
A couple of years. Yeah, and there's other ways of doing a similar kind of thing for clearing yourself out and stuff. I think the attitude of the person who's doing it is probably more important than the actual mechanical ritual in and of itself, because it's the attitude that spirits are going to respond to. And if the attitude is, I'm better than all of you and who cares what you think, then that's what they're going to get. But if it's just about trying to cleanse yourself, become more of who you already are, and getting control over your own emotional state of being and so forth, then there would be no reason why any spirit would feel offended. So I think that's the energetic signature is probably more important than the actual layout.
Yeah, unless you're banishing it, doing it purposely to get rid of a particular spirit.
Right. Yeah, and if that's the case, then you're deciding whether or not they belong there, and you're using your natural authority to get rid of them, and they may not like it, but then isn't that just too bad? They can go cry in their milk or whatever. If they're being not favorable for the circumstances of other people who are living there, you have a right to create an environment that is safe for you, and if they don't like it, they can go somewhere else, and that's fine. So, Dora Mifra says, any thoughts about the black-eyed children? Just wondering, as I dreamed of two demons disguised as kids on wheelchairs with black eyes the other night. Got rid of them, but scary dream nonetheless. I have never met a black-eyed child. I don't know anything about them. Yeah, I have no actual information, personal experiences, or anything like that to draw upon. Anything I said might be something I saw or heard on a Facebook group, and we know how reliable they are. So I really don't have anything to say on that.
Anything on the subject either.
Yeah. So Nadia says, if we say parallel universe theory is real, how does our soul, which is unique, stand in that? Are then there more of the same souls of one? Well, if there are, I don't think we need to worry about it. Because we have to deal with the one that we're in. And, the idea of parallel universes, they would be independent of us because they wouldn't be different versions of us. They'd be different us's, if that makes sense. I mean,
if any of it makes sense.
If any of it makes sense. Yeah, the thing is that I'd like to be practical when it comes to that kind of stuff. So if there is a parallel universe and another me, I don't care. Whatever that me is doing is up to that me, and I don't need to make any decisions in this reality that I'm in right now based on potential possibilities in the other reality that may or may not impact me. So I feel the same way about past lives at this point. I mean, I remember a lot of them, but it's not necessarily useful information. I mean, in the beginning, when I started getting all gobs of information and remembering things, it certainly brought in my base of empathy because I had more experiences of painful things to draw on. Like I didn't have enough in the life I'm already in, but that could be why I remembered those because of the life that I was in. But the main point of being here is to exist in this reality that we're in and just make decisions that affect this particular reality and how we behave, what we pull to us, what we choose to focus on. These are all our choices. And I had a childhood friend who was freaking out in Los Angeles thinking that she was being targeted by Asmodeus, I think it was, the demon Asmodeus.
Right, that's what you said at the
Yeah.
time, yeah.
And part of her confusion, not only that, but the psychic she went to was telling her she was in a really abusive relationship. We're talking like serious physical, emotional abuse, multiple people involved in the abuse on her, something no one should ever have to experience. And so she went, when she got her psychic reading, basically was told that in an alternate reality, in a parallel Earth, on a parallel timeline, her and the guy she was with were having children and were happy and that everything was wonderful. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, way to dismiss her current situation and what's going on, way to muddy the waters of what she should do about what's happening, way to not let her focus on reality. And then it led to this whole thing about Asmodeus and the guy that she was in jail now. And the demons came and told her that they were going to kill him, but if she volunteered her soul in his place, then they would let him go. And she's calling me, and I haven't talked to her in years, in a panic about this whole thing, getting ready to commit suicide potentially. I was really scared for her, and I think that when people are giving people advice and they don't really know what's going on, that there is a danger, a definite potential for abuse that can take place. So focus on your present and your now, I guess is the message. I got kind of off field there. I did manage to bring her from the brink, and she did go and seek assistance. She is now doing fine. She still has sort of a strange way of thinking about things and has some confusion about stuff, but then the stuff she's gone through explains most of that. But she is, for all intents and purposes, a healthy person, and living a life instead of getting ready to give up her soul to save some person who was abusive to her in some other reality who wasn't, But anyway, yeah. So, anywho, let me go look and see what everybody's been talking about as I've been babbling.
No, it's okay. It was a fun story. Anyway.
Jonathan says that if Ian did it daily for a year, then I am extremely curious how to do the LBRP. What does it involve? Well, you can look that up as far as the Golden Dawn version of it, but we did a meditational version of it that we did put up, and I'll have to look and see what it is that I called it.
It's got the ritual removed from it. It's
right.
just the meditational.
It's the meditational part, the core of it, the actual meaning of the ritual is what we put. I asked Ian to do that for our group, and for me, I wanted to substitute the angelic powers with the older versions of the heads of the elemental kingdoms. But you can substitute those back, and it's not hard to find out what they are.
I think you called it like.
I think I did. I called it the banishing meditation. So it was one of the earlier videos I put up. So look through the list and you'll find it. And I think I start a playlist that had that in it. I can't remember. We're still figuring all those things out.
Yeah, my recommendation for the other one, unless somebody has a specific attraction to Crowley stuff, my advice is the Golden Dawn one, general.
Okay. Mercury said thank you. Dora Mifa said thank you anyway. I think that was about the black-eyed children. Nadia says, I feel like sometimes I get memories in forms of some kind of deja vu from parallel universe, which lets me know what might happen in the near future. What could this visions be called? Precognition? That's what that would be called. Um, a lot of times I think when we're asleep, we usually when you're sleeping at some point you're out in the astral when you're dreaming. And some of us from there end up flying back and forth through time and looking to see what's coming ahead. And then sometimes our dreams will reflect the information that we're getting from those travels, or sometimes it's a more direct piece of information. My dreams always let me know if there's trouble coming and how big the trouble's likely to be and how close to me it's going to come and that kind of stuff. And when I have a lot of deja vus, I figure that I've looked ahead and I'm following the path that I was likely to follow, and so those things happened. So Julia says, sometimes I have moments where something happens, whether it be something being said, a scene in front of me, and I have a strong feeling that I've seen this before, but I can't really remember when. Yeah, definitely deja vus. Any ideas on what that might be? Is it witchcraft related? Not specifically, because anyone can have a deja vu. When I was little, I had a really strong one. We were playing Queens, I think. Hearts. We were playing hearts, and in the hearts, there's like the Queen of Spades is like the evil queen or whatever and can take all your cards, or I can't remember. It's been too long since I played it. But I was playing with my father and my brother and my sister, and I was very upset when this one hand came up because we'd already had it. I knew all the cards. I had seen that already. And that's, my father told me that was a deja vu. He figured it was just a mental trick of your brain where, your part of your brain saw it a split second before the other part, which is the standard scientific explanation for deja vu. But if it happens days before the event, that doesn't really fly, But, yeah. But it doesn't have to be witchcraft related. It's just, it can be clairvoyance related. And people can be in any religion, in any culture, and not be studying magic or witchcraft and have visions and precognitive images from the future that give them warnings and stuff like that. So, okay, so Nadia says that Jonathan is more in form of a memory, like me already experiencing it. Mary says, yuck, how dare that person tell her that she was having a great relationship with her abuser in another realm. Yeah, that's not helpful information. Jacqueline says, hi, Siofra, loved your student-teacher video. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It seemed like it was a good thing just to put out there so that we would have fewer potential confusions in the future. One hopes. And Jonathan said, thank you, I will look it up, the video about the vanishing. Writer says that Mary would make my skin crawl, some things you just don't say. Yeah. Jacqueline, writer says, was brilliant, wasn't it? I loved it too. Thank you very much. I'm glad. Julia says, I see. Thank you. You're welcome. Nadia says, how to enhance clairvoyance or explain it? Should we rather just observe? Well, again, as we were talking earlier, getting to know who you are and getting to know yourself is the best method for clearing up any of those confusions, and then trying to be as balanced in yourself as possible. So all of the stuff, that ball of string following thing, it's like, there's the psychological stuff in the life that you're in that you have to process, clear out, and get to the point where it's not affecting your decisions in this life. There's sometimes past life impulses that you find out about, and you need to clear them out as well. I had one with my son that was making me react badly whenever he walked in on me cleaning a bathroom, of all things. And I actually did a past life regression to figure out why, and that helped me to deal with the present better. Yeah, so when you're developing your psychic abilities, the focus isn't on trying to become more psychic. The focus is on becoming more clear in yourself, and then the abilities will clear out.
Removing the obstacles.
Right. It's like we're removing the obstacles to ourselves to be the best version of who we are. And knowing what's coming is a good thing. It's a good, I think of it really, a lot of the stuff that happened when I was a kid, I thought of it as a survival tactic that people develop. And I think in ancient cultures, the survival tactic of knowing something is coming was probably important and undoubtedly encouraged in a percentage of the population, because they didn't have satellites and telling you about the weather or when there's going to be an infestation of insects, or whether there's going to be a good growing season or not. So that the people that they had in their group that could sense the future and sense the difficulties coming ahead could prepare the tribe for getting ready ahead of time, so that they were prepared when it happened, so they could survive going through it. So I really think it's a part of our primitive brain, and it's like it's coming up more now, which is interesting considering all the technology and everything that we have. But I think it's allowing us to start to access some of that more readily. So it is just a natural part of people. Not everyone has it to the level that like someone like me has.
Of course, and using it helps.
Right, using it definitely assists in development. But if the reason you're getting into magic is to become a great psychic, it's the wrong reason to get into magic. The reason for getting into magic is to develop yourself, become a better person. And along with that often comes being a better psychic or clairvoyant or whatever. I did a whole video on all of the clairs, so we could define them and know what we were talking about. I mean, life is just a series of things happen moment to moment as we go along. So, being in the moment, we get the most out of where we're at. I guess that's that whole mindfulness thing. So Nadia says, also, I really appreciate all the answers and hope I'm not asking too much. Mercury says, thank you, Siofra, for all the wisdom you share. I'm learning a lot from your videos. Good. I'm glad that my videos can be helpful. The reason I wanted to put them out there was because I read in all the books that I've read, I've seen a lot of books that don't have what I would consider some of the basic understandings of why we do what we do. And I thought that there was a need for that. So, good. It's always a good thing. So the Heart Catalyst says, what do you think happens when you die? I think it depends on what you believe. My belief is that thoughts on the other plane are real. So anything you think becomes an instant reality when you're dead. So sort of like that movie, What Dreams May Come, that Robin Williams was in. The book was written in the 1950s. I thought was the best expression of my feeling of what the other side is like. I have helped a lot of spirits cross over to the other side. And every one of them was going to a different place. Everyone was looking for a different scene, a different environment, a different group of people. And so, and in some of my past lives, I actually remember going to hell in one because I believed that my thoughts were the things that I should judge myself by, even though I didn't succeed in some of that was the one with my son, actually. I didn't succeed in any of them, which was a very frustrating thing. But I remember, when I was first stuck as like a earthbound spirit because of various circumstances in that life where I saw myself die, but then I wasn't sure what to do. And then I had a dog, and I didn't want to leave my dog, and then they buried me and the dog sat on my grave, and I didn't want to leave my dog, and then my dog died, and then I didn't know what to do. I tried to haunt my children because I was mad at them. They couldn't see me, and I was just hanging out there until a voice came out of the sky or the air, I don't know how to describe it, and said, why are you here? And I didn't know an answer. So then I wasn't. Then I found myself in a different place where I was going through the life I had just had and saw all the things that I had thought and done and felt. And they're kind of, thought forms are kind of a raw expression. There's like no filter on a thought form, it's just like, bam, there it is. It's just it itself, and you can't deny what it looks like. And so I decided I was a horrible person and deserved to go to hell, and then I found myself in hell for a while until I couldn't remember why I was there anymore, and then I wasn't there anymore and I was somewhere else. So I think that, the more developed you can get in a life, the less likely you are to go through that part of it, like I did in that life. And that, what you're looking to have happen is probably where you're going to end up to start with. And if you believe in reincarnation or don't believe in reincarnation, if reincarnation is real, regardless of what past life you end up in, you'll end up coming back. It's like, and since I remembered my life, other lives from the time I was little, I expect I will be coming back. Hopefully into a better family. I'd like to put that ad in there right now and put in the order for that. So, it's going to depend upon how you're raised and what you're told and what's in your subconscious, which is why it's important to deal with all the stuff in your subconscious. If you want to change that, if you don't like what they stuck in there, what you absorbed from when you were little, you can actually change that, and ritual is the method for doing that.
That usually starts the fear going too.
Yeah, fear is usually the first response when you start trying to change something that you've been told is true. Because how dare you question what's going on? So Julia says that's actually a really comforting theory as to life after death. Violet says, I hate to think that my loved ones could not cross properly. One psychic had a hard time reaching my brother, like he was in a darker place still. Well, maybe they weren't a good psychic, or maybe your brother's already reincarnated somewhere else, or, who knows? Since I don't know the circumstances.
Well, again, if he thinks he belongs there, then he'll have to get over that first.
Well, right. So I don't know anything about that. So Nadia says, how can we ensure our dogs to cross properly so they are safe? Well, usually they are. Just like being with your animal when it passes can help, but sometimes they come back to visit. I've had my cats come back. And occasionally there's a ghost dog. There's a ghost dog in one of our local hotels down by the water, apparently. I guess the dog died there with his owner or something like that. So, you just do what you can, like you would for a person. Talking to the animal, telling it it's okay for it to leave. Sometimes their spirit might stick around because they're worried about you and they're attached to you. And that's often the reason why humans' spirits stick around. They're worried about their loved ones, want to make sure that they're okay. So that sounded like wind in the door.
They didn't leave it open, so it's bad.
Nope, it's closed. Okay. It's just the wind is playing with the door. Yeah, so, there's no certain way to resolve all issues, but that's your best bet, really, when it comes to your animals. And then if they come back to say hi, welcome them and say, hey, I'm okay. We're doing all right. So the Heart Catalyst says, my brother committed suicide recently. I hope he's okay on the other side. That's a harsh way to go, and there's no way to know. Depending on your belief system, some people think that if you commit suicide, then your spirit is sort of stuck in limbo until you finish the length of the time you should have been alive.
That's what Barden says.
Yeah, that's what Barden says. So that's going to depend upon how your brother feels about suicide and also about whether he knows that he's dead. Sometimes suicides actually don't realize that they've died. So light a candle for him. Just tell him that you hope that he's in a good place and he's safe, and that if he's not, to find the light and follow it. Or think of his relatives, the people that he might be expecting on the other side, and ask them to help lead him over. And that's often what happens when I'm helping a human spirit cross over to the other side, is that I call their relatives, their ancestors, their spirit guides, if they're a different religion, the beings or spirits that they're expecting to come and help guide them over to where they need to be and take care of them. Because it's not like there's nothing happening on the other side. Certainly in some crises, the other side gets pretty busy trying to deal with things. So, how do we ensure that we do? Let me think. Come back here. So Nadia says, and how to ensure that we do, or what we do if, what do we do if we found ourselves not crossed properly? Maybe a funny question. Yeah, that seems to be the subject for today. If we haven't crossed off or crossed properly, we hope we find someone like me. That's what we do. That's what they do. They find me or someone like me somewhere near where they are to help them get over to the other side. And that's one of the reasons why I do that. I consider it a spiritual obligation because not everyone can sense them and help them cross over. And generally, it's just that they're confused or they're scared or they're attached or they don't know they're dead. There's just almost as many reasons why they're stuck as there are people. Most people don't get stuck. Most people just leave and go straight into the light and cross right over. I suspect I'm going to be one of those since I almost did that when I was really, really sick. And it's a pretty light. I liked it. It's really sparkly. There's all kinds of sparkles in there, and I'm very attracted to sparkles. It's just like, ooh, look, sparkles. Yeah, whatever. So you just do your best. Let's see. Nadia says, do the ghost dogs feel lonely if the spirit sticks around and we don't acknowledge? Well, I don't know. I'm not a ghost dog, so I can't tell, but I would acknowledge. I mean, we had a neighborhood ghost cat for a while, and we didn't acknowledge it. We kept chasing it through the house because we thought it was one of our cats as it was knocking stuff over. It took us a while to realize it wasn't actually the physical animal. But yeah, I mean, eventually they'll disperse and go wherever. Jonathan says, the heart, I am so, so sorry. I don't believe that suicide means anything related to your afterlife besides a person's own relationship with the universe. I am so sorry. Yes, it's a sad thing. Although I do believe that people should be in charge of their own ending if they want to be. Philippa says, hello, I'm sorry I'm late. Hi, Philippa. Hello. The Heart Catalyst said, thank you. Philippa says, I tried this last night, and so far today my house feels empty of spirits. Cool. I know what she's talking about. I don't know if anyone else knows. She wrote me an email, and I told her about the video, Ghost Proofing Your House, and a few other things that she could try to get control of her space. And I recommend doing that if you have, especially if you have children who are sensitive, because they shouldn't have to deal with this kind of stuff until they're ready. There was a case down in California, Northern California, that we went to where the mother was concerned about us after we helped the ghost of the girl who was there cross over. She was concerned about us sealing the place up, and that would be interfering with her son's burgeoning abilities. And I'm like, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to get a good night's sleep. As soon as he steps off the property, it'll all be there, but everyone should have a safe environment in which to progress and do their stuff. Writer says, I love the movie Ghost Town. It's uncanny how it is like that at times. Yes, I liked that movie too. I really loved the characters. I thought they did a great job with it, and I kind of related. Poor guy was not into being able to see them at all, and it changed him forever. So that was a pretty good one. Yeah. So, actually, one of the times I actually helped find a person's body was a local suicide, and they were very upset about not being found. And I wasn't too happy about finding them, but I did anyway. Not something I do on a regular basis, and not something anyone had ever asked me to do before. But they felt much better once that their loved ones knew what happened to them, because there was a question as to whether they were dead or kidnapped or whatever. So it's not fun, and I think the people who are left behind have the most kind of stuff to try and work through as far as if there's a survivors group in your area, I recommend going to it if you haven't already started, because they'll be better capable of helping you deal with the potential emotional aftermath of having a relative take their life. So please take care of yourself. So Philippa says, I thought of you earlier, Siofra. I watched the 1980s movie Legend with my children earlier this evening. It was even more visually stunning than I remember, and so much glitter in every scene. Oh yes, that was the one with the very young Tom Cruise, right? Yeah, that was kind of a fun movie. I remember seeing that at the theater when I lived in Santa Cruz, I think. Yeah, in the 1980s. I was there in 85 through 90. Yeah, so that was about right. Writer says, I love that movie. Classic. I guess I must be classic then, right? Because I remember when that movie came out. But hey. So, waiting for more questions, I guess, at this point. There was a lot of stuff.
What age do you approach antique?
At what
classic,
age?
But what age do you become antique?
I see. Ian says I'm classic, but at what age do I become antique? Or anyone become antique? I guess if I get to be 150, I definitely could qualify as an antique, right? Writer says, or Nadia says, before I go to sleep, any advice how to get over fear of sleeping because spirits are more active around that time? Spirits are more active around that time because you're still and they can see you better when you're not moving around. So learn to do some protections. I got to the point where I was tired of anything wandering by, just coming in and, trying to wake me up to ask me a question or give me some assistance or whatever. I decided my sleep was important. And so, I have a circle around my bed when I'm sleeping, and I have the protections around my house, the ghost proofing thing that I mentioned earlier. That video will give you the technique for sealing up your house against spirits coming in, especially when you're sleeping. So that's what I recommend you do. And so you can take control of your environment. Just because you're unconscious doesn't mean you shouldn't be in charge. All right. So Mary says, thank you for clarifying in your teacher-student video that prejudice is not tolerated here. Too bad, that needs clarifying. Makes me feel good to be part of a group that does not tolerate nonsense. Yes. And good. We should be a safe space for people. I was completely taken aback when I got such an incredible reaction from the transgender community of witches out there for just being accepting of who they were and so forth, because that really highlighted how bad their situation is and how difficult everything they do in their life must be, that just being a good person and an accepting individual is something to remark on. I would like to envision a universe or a world in the future where that's just normal behavior and no one needs to remark upon it. So yeah, it made me think about it. That doesn't mean that I don't have discernment, and it's like there's certainly certain behaviors that I will not allow. And apparently we've gotten there's enough of our YouTube channel is getting out there far enough now that we've got more troll type people that are finding us and giving me more and more opportunities to make boundaries. And so people who put an external video link or an ad to a psychic to help you, or someone to help follow you around to find out if your husband's cheating on you, those people, the thing that they said never shows up, and then they're hidden from the channel so they can't find us again. But there's so many people out there that are like that. It just sort of astonishes me. They must have such boring lives that they feel they have to run around and do this all over the place. It's just sad. But hey. Adeline says, I'm late again. Well, we still got a half an hour almost, so you're not too late. You can still ask questions.
I'll be back.
Okay. Julia says, welcome. Ryder says, hi to Adeline. Nadia says, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Having those Q&As is really amazing, especially being welcomed by someone with experience like you. These days, we usually pay for this kind of talk. Well, you can always voluntarily give me money if you want to with the Snap, or the, what is it? There's the chat feature, whatever it's called. I can't remember. But yeah, you can, I'm always open to taking donations if you feel that what I've said is worthy enough. Whatever that's called, I can't remember. But anyway, but you're free to or free not to, because, you know, that's not what it's about in particular. So have a good time. Bye, Nadia. Super chats. Okay, thank you. I don't remember all these terms. I do pretty good, though, considering I'm always learning something new. But, yeah. And, you know, a few people have done it, and that's awesome. I have a couple people that are patrons on my Patreon page, which is also awesome and very graciously accepted and so forth. So, you know, I appreciate that when people can and want to. So, no pressure. Nadia says, I tried Super Chat. Okay, then. I didn't see one, but, well, not available in your region. Ah, I see. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like we have people from so many places all over the world. So what works for some doesn't work for others. Any other way to support when I can? Well, if you don't have the super chat feature available, you probably don't want to do Patreon, because apparently the fees for other countries is just ridiculous from what I've heard. So I do have two different amounts up on my Etsy page for donations for people, and I get more of a percentage of that, so I don't know. But don't worry about it if that's, you know, not gonna work for you. I don't think I have anything else set up at this point, like Venmo or whatever. My daughter keeps wanting me to get that, but I'm just like, I have enough things right now. I have to do these things one at a time. So Violet says, I love you, Siofra. Ian, I'm off to another 3 p.m. webinar by David Wilcock about the pyramids, which I have great interest in. I will see you next Sunday.
Cool. Bye.
Bye, Violet. Philippa says at Ryder, sorry, I never reply to your comments. I'm dyslexic and on the spectrum, so it takes me a long time to process stuff and even longer to type. Plus, I'm coloring right now. Nadia says Patreon or Etsy could work. Okay, cool. I'll let you figure that out. Yeah, so let me think. Ian is doing busy work to keep himself focused, so if you have any questions for him, he will stop doing what he's doing and answer them. I'm glad that the spring has come here. It's nice. Ryder says that Philippa, no worries, color away. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why email can work. So you can contact me at shifrasmagicalcove@gmail.com, and that allows people to have longer questions and take longer to write. Oh, thank you. The Veil Snatcher sent $6.99 Canadian. Awesome. Thank you very much. I guess there's nothing I need to do with that, is there? Report, remove. Nope.
Interesting.
It's a nice color. Julia says, I'm so glad I tuned in today. Last 2 weeks I've been feeling a bit of guilt due to witchcraft and was afraid to join. I feel much more confident now. It feels so nice in this space. Well, you know, the word witch has got a lot of negative connotations throughout history, and it doesn't help that every TV show and movie out there pretty much puts them in a negative context as well. So I'm glad that this is an encouraging space. I mean, I was calling myself a witch when I was a teenager because I just always knew I was one. And that does strange things to some people. I met some men who were very fascinated by the idea that I was a witch and thought this was like a dangerous thing for them to have a relationship with me. And they were attracted to that aspect of it, not to me as a person, to identity as a witch. Just kind of funny. But yeah, the more we can help to dispel the definitions of that kind of stuff that's out there about what we do, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And when I was, starting, I'm a massage therapist, and when I first started working with a local chiropractor here in town, he actually wanted to know. Someone who worked with him told him that I was a witch, and she was a Native American shamaness, so she said, and told him that if he let me into his office, then his business would go, he'd go bankrupt and no one would come because I was a witch. And so I went to lunch with him because, I was going to be renting a space in his office and working with him. And he asked me, I knew, I had heard that she had said this. And so I expected the question. And he asked me if it was true. And I said, yes, it's true. And he says, well, what do you do? So I told him what I did. Work with nature, plants, animals, these are our practices. This is my focus. And he said, well, that doesn't sound evil. I said, it's not. It has nothing to do with that at all. And so I've worked with him for a long time. I decided it was worth the risk because if I was going to be working with him, I didn't want there to be any secrets between us. And if he was uncomfortable with it, I wanted to know it up front. I like to have actual information to make a decision on. And that's the thing, is like if people ask questions and you give them inaccurate information, and then they base a decision on that information that you've given that's not true, then you've muddied the whole process. So, and we worked together for years. I'm, in fact, the only massage therapist in the community that he trusts wholeheartedly to know what she's doing. And if I send someone into him and I say, this is what I think is going on, that this bone is twisted in this direction, or, this muscle group is causing the problem, or their rib is out, or whatever. And sure enough, I was always right. I didn't know we were having a contest, though, until one day he came and told me that he hadn't been able to find a time when I was wrong. And he was waiting for that, as if there was a scoreboard there. So that was kind of entertaining, because I was just doing it, because I know what I'm doing. But Tanya says, so true that all the witchy shows are all based on witches being evil. Well, Charmed, they're not evil, but then they're not accurate. But, Julia says, like I was able to even talk about Beltane with my father yesterday. It was a huge step for me. Well, congratulations. I mean, that's been around for so long, and it's still so practiced all over the planet. Philippa says, when sealing your home, do you need to seal each individual faucet? And then do I need to pull the washing machine dishwasher out, or can I draw the pentagram with them in place, please? Yes, you have to do each individual faucet unless you're doing the source for the water. If you got two faucets, you do one faucet, then the other faucet. No, you don't have to move out your washing machine. You do it at where the water inlet is coming into the house or into the machine, and do the pentagram on that. You only need to do outdoor corners, not indoor corners. So corners on the edges of your house are the ones you do, because that's where things can get in. If it's a closet, you don't have to do those corners. You do have to do every mirror. Bathrooms are a pain because they've got the toilet and the sink and the bathtub and the shower and sometimes other things, and then the mirror, and yes, and then all windows. So you definitely seal up all those different areas. And if you want to do the extra step, you can do the floor and the ceiling as well, just to kind of make it into like a ball instead of just a circle. But I can tell you from the other side, or the astral plane, or whatever, when you draw those pentagrams, they show up. Because when we were at that place in California I talked about earlier, I went out. We were staying at a hotel because it was, not close to home. And I went out to check on the house to see how it was doing, and I saw all the pentagrams I had drawn, and they're visible on the other side. And so it is like a big neon do not disturb sign, basically. And spirits know exactly what that means when they see it. So it's like, okay, this is a bad idea. I'm going to get in trouble. But yeah. And don't forget, some refrigerators have got a water outlet in them for making ice. And same with a dishwasher. If your dishwasher is built in, you want to make sure you do that too, just because, just to be on the safe side. Just takes a little extra couple seconds. So, So Ryder says that Julia, I'm chuffed for you. That must be good for you. I'm not familiar with that term. Philippa says, I have 3 bathrooms. Sigh. I can see the pentagram when I close my eyes. Good. And, you only have to do it once if you're doing it right. But if you feel you need to do it again, you can just do it once a month for a while, just to feel confident that it's there. And generally after that, I don't pay attention to it much at all. Of course, I cast my circle every night and kind of like redo my energetic ball throughout my property. So I guess I sort of automatically charge them up without thinking about it. So, yeah. But I like having the passive stuff around. Like, we had a guy come over here to look at our house for a new roof on a local program to get a roof replaced because our roof needs to be replaced. And turns out he was a pagan, which was good because I put up the cross brooms above my kitchen sink. And there's all these bottles hanging from the brooms. And he was in the kitchen. He was looking for quite some time, just kind of staring at it. And I thought, uh-oh. Okay, here it comes. And he turns around and looks at me and says, are you Wiccan? I said, well, yeah, as the easiest answer, not having to explain it all. Turns out he's actually a pagan and calls himself a Wiccan minister. So then I clarified that I wasn't actually Wiccan specific, more eclectic. And he thought that made sense. But yes, so yeah, I'm kind of surprised if people come over to my house and can't figure out that I'm a witch just by walking into my garden with all my witch balls hanging everywhere. So the more, passive kind of decorative protection and stuff that you can put out there, as far as I'm concerned, the better. So Ryder says, I'm chuffed means I'm happy for you or pleased. If I say lush, it means lovely, beautiful, or good. Okay, I'll try to remember those. There's so many different terminologies out there. So is that specific to where you're from? Or is this just one of those new terms on the internet that I haven't tuned into as yet? There's always more to learn. I'm waiting. Are you going to sneeze? Toilet paper? Okay. It's a Welsh thing. All right. Local slang. There's so many different people on this channel. I love it. I think it's lovely. It's wonderful. I've never heard it before, just assumed it's likely regional. Philippa says, at Ryder, are you in the UK, as these are terms we use? I think the answer to that is yes, since she said it was a Welsh thing. So probably. I guess she'll answer that question in a second and we'll find out. All of us together at once. Yes, she is in the UK. Jonathan says, interesting. Everyone in South Africa says chuffed. Well, that would make sense considering the fact that the British actually colonized South Africa to start with. I would assume they might have some of the similar terms. Alice Honeywell says, hello, Siofra. Can you working with the Fae if you live in the city? I live on the 30th floor of a building. Seems like that may be too far from the earth for them to bother. I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, you can ground no matter where you are, no matter how high you are, but it's going to be a lot easier if you go to a park and are actually on the dirt and stuff like that, especially if you're not already working with them. I mean, if you have an established relationship with them, they can probably find you wherever you are because they're not bound by physical laws and that kind of thing. But to make that initial connection and to tune yourself to their energy, I would think that being in a park would be better. That's just my feeling, though. Philippa says there's a time lag on YouTube, so it takes a while to catch up with comments. Yes, there is a time lag. That's why I read them all out loud, though. And apparently that's not normal. According to one of my friends who watches other YouTube channels, she says that she's never seen anybody do that before. Usually the person's just talking at everybody and the comments just kind of go by and that's the end of it. But
that makes it a lot less interactive.
It makes it way less interactive. And that's the reason for doing this. I do the videos by myself so no one interrupts and I don't get distracted too often, although I often distract myself. But, you know, so that's my form for that, to be able to get the information out. But this is a different kind of interaction. It's an actual interaction with people, even if I can't see you. So Trinity says, this may sound stupid, but there isn't more than one way to exorcise a spirit from the home or from a person, right? Well, I mean, there are specific ways that different religions or spiritual paths use to exorcise them. So I guess there are different ways.
Shamanic is going to be different than Tibetan for sure.
Right. Each culture is going to have their own method for doing it. I mean, the core principle behind it is the same. Like, you know, get out of a body that isn't yours. So, he says, I'm not saying the name because I don't want to be offensive to anyone that practices. I mean, there is a way for each path to do this, right? Just curious. Well, I'm thinking, yeah, there's probably a way. I mean, each culture would have ways to trying to deal with this. If it was like, you know, a native culture, they would have their own methods. And there's so many different ways of getting somebody back into themselves. And obviously the Catholic Church has got its own methods. With
the Taoists have one of the most fun methods.
Okay, apparently the Taoists have a really fun method, but we're not going to hear about it.
Oh, it's just a whole other subject.
We'd have to do a whole subject matter on that one. All right. So yes, probably every culture has got their methods of trying to figure out how to do that. They don't always work, and they're not always right, but you know. Alice Honeywell says, "Thank you for answering. You're welcome." Jonathan says, "Trinity, I have seen numerous methods." Philippa says, my little girl saw a large Caucasian skin tone head in the top corner of her door frame, sort of peering in at her, but it had no facial features whatsoever and had dark pink spiky hair. Any ideas? Huh. Dark pink spiky hair. I don't think the kid would have a dead rock star.
Sorry.
That's Ian's wonderful sense of humor. They can look like anything, and sometimes they try to look like something spooky to scare people because they think it's funny. I mean, so you don't always know for sure if what you're seeing is actually what they are. The main thing is to be able to not let them scare you and make them leave if you don't want to have them hanging around, I guess. Marcus Phoenix says, hi guys from London, we love your style. Hi Marcus! Nice for you to join us. We have a number of people from the UK today. Mary Broadwell says, ooh, I just thought of another thing about fire. That water, earth, and air tends to be there, hopefully, but fire needs to be created. Well, fire actually was the first element, so no. But literal fire, yes, because it has to have fuel, which would be wood, which would be earth, and it needs to have air, oxygen in order to combust, and you need to have water to put it out. So in that sense, that would be a yes. It depends on what level you're talking about. Writer says, at Marcus hi. Philippa is laughing about probably something we said earlier. Dead rock star. Apparently that got people going. She was very scared. I'm sorry that she was scared. It's not fun to see something spooky, that's for sure. You might want to teach her a method to defend herself, like what she likes. When we've done houses, like, you know, where children are, we like to talk to them about making a shield of protection around themselves and using something that they can relate to. Like, so if there is like a toy that she's particularly fond of, or even one time Tiffany actually recommended pizza boxes for one kid, you know, stacking them up, making them go away, or just being firm in her voice and knowing that it has to go away if she tells it to, and she can just stand there and say, you're scaring me, go away and leave me alone, and it should leave. So you can try that, especially with children, because they believe wholeheartedly when you tell them this is how it works. And You know, so I had like a child once where I actually saw her hair moving. A spirit was pulling on her hair, and she was annoyed with it. And we'd been working with it for a bit. And I told her, I said, tell her to stop and leave you alone and go away and then go to sleep. And that's exactly what she did. She went, stop it, leave me alone, go away. And then she went to sleep. I was just like, wow. I couldn't believe she went to sleep in the middle of all that. But she did. She followed instructions to the letter. So sometimes thinking about that is like, you know, from a child's perspective, and, you know, giving them, this is how it works, this is going to be fine, you're not in any danger, you can tell it to go away, it has to go away and leave you alone. Boom. So, try that. Felipe liked the Dead Rock Star too. And if you can laugh at it, it helps. I mean, that's what I did to the, I think, tree spirit that tried to scare me that one day when it blew up its face and was all green head or whatever and making booing sounds, which I thought was just so adorable. Of course, you know, I was a lot older at that point, but when I was younger, I was very firm with spirits if they were bad, and made them leave me alone, and they did, and that's how I learned that I had natural authority, because I just knew that they would have to go, and because I knew they had to go, they also knew that they had to go, and they didn't have a choice in the matter, and then they left. So they were like, ooh, okay then, I gotta get the heck out of here, because I don't know what's with that kid, but she scares me. So that's the trick, scare them back. So we're coming up on our hour and a half at this point, so I'm glad that YouTube finally let us have a live show. I was panicking slightly in the beginning, having to get my phone out here. But hey, you know, I love your comments and I love your questions. Jonathan said, very interesting answer. Siofra, my impression was that being scared of beings in the darkness was just a part of childhood. Oh, maybe, but not necessarily. Felipe says, we tried natural authority, but she struggles to speak to people normally. Oh, right, because she's autistic, I remember that. And said she was too afraid. I'll try the shield techniques, thanks. The green head spirit was the first video I saw. Yeah, that guy was pretty funny. It's gone so quick tonight. Really enjoyed the conversation and questions. Yes. Clara says, I love your energy. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I like my energy too. One of the things I enjoy about being alive is just enjoying laughter. I was with a guy for a while who liked me better when I cried than when I laughed, and I'm really glad I left him in the dirt in the past. And he won't talk to me anymore because I've changed too much, apparently. But yay me! Thank you, Siofra and Ian, for taking the time to be here and doing a live. Yes.
You're welcome. Thank you for attending.
Yes, Ian says you're welcome. Thank you, Siofra and Ian. Jonathan says, thank you. All right, guys. Love you all. And like I said, any questions that anybody has, send me an email. Do whatever, you know, whatever works. And we'll keep up this conversation. And I still have quite a list of videos to do. So we'll see which ones we end up with next. So bye, guys.
Bye all.